Hello, Exile. Do you have a need to be fast as fuck? Is speed your middle name? Are you perhaps immune to having a seizure in the middle of your gameplay? Or are you so hardcore that you don't even care if you get a seizure in the middle of your gameplay as long as you're fast as fuck? Well, I present to you guys my Flicker Strike build. Yeah, now yes, Flicker Strike. It's Flicker. What do you want me to say? It's freaking Flicker Strike. It's fast as fuck, bro.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
And I present to you probably the most well-stabilized, probably the most defensive, offensive combination of a Flicker Strike build that will not let you down if you really want to be loyal to the Flicker gameplay. Now, before we get into the juicy details and into the meat of the stew, I do stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at twitch.tv/Kogaras. You can see the link down below, or you can join my Discord if you guys have any questions you guys want to ask. That's going to be answered much quicker than YouTube because YouTube is slower and I don't get notifications. Yeah. On top of that, guys, I highly recommend you please watch my last video that I posted. It did not get recommended by YouTube because I did not post for a while because I was working on the video because I wanted to improve my damn editing skills and I had an inspiration from Uber Elder himself torturing my ass playing Flicker that I had to make a funny video, and I love that video to death. So if you guys want to laugh your ass off at me getting tortured by Uber Elder, I highly recommend you watch that video for Flicker. You can see it kind of like the actual boss montage. I'll play it here too for you guys who don't want to see it, but it's there for your sake if you're kind of curious. I highly recommend you watch it and leave a like for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you very much. Now, here I'm going to show you the three main problems with Flicker. One, it is a clear skill, attack. It's a melee skill that you either love or you hate. Now, let's say you do love this skill and you really want to try it out. Let's say that is criteria already passed because you clicked on this video with the Flicker Strike gameplay on it or title on it, right? So that's out of the way. It is a melee skill, so you need defenses. It teleports like a maniac, so you have absolutely no control over the skill itself. Now, while you can cancel it because it did buff multi-strike with Leap Slam, yes. During the middle of a fight, you do not want to stop to Leap Slam away because your little puss boy... Where did I get that word from? I've been watching too much fitness videos. Anyway, you do not want to leave during a fight because you do not have enough defenses. I don't care if you have double my DPS. If you can't stay in the boss as long as I am, effectively time-wise, I did kill him first than you. This is how a race works. Is DPS. Time is a factor. So, that isn't a problem. We do fix that. Damage, we fix that. I'll tell you guys how I did it. And then the last thing of all is Flicker's main issue is you need to have frenzy charges in order to, of course, attack. You need to waste a frenzy charge. So I'll also show you a method that probably you haven't heard about. Some people do if you have played Flicker before, but this one I actually learned about recently. I didn't even think about it. A way of sustaining Flicker without actually hurting yourself. It's a little bit more expensive than usual, but it is definitely worth it. To highly recommend it. So stick around. That's a little bit of a boss montage so you can see how the build performs and actually kill every single boss except Uber Elder.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Watch my last video if you want to see me get tortured by Uber Elder.
I fucking hate him.
Okay, so with that, after that, then we'll go into the detail. Catch you guys there. Welcome back, guys, into the grid of the video. Now let's get into the actual build guide. So the character that I'm making is a champion called Make Flicker Great Again, because I am loyal to Flicker and I'm not some little bitch who moves on to Dual Strike. I am loyal. That's all you need to know. Flicker for life. That's the whole point of the build. We want to stay Flicker and make it as viable as possible. So for that reason, I did champion, because of course we have 3 problems you wanted to fix, right? Problem number 1, damage. Well, how do you fix damage easily for a build? Impale. Impale is kind of a broken mechanic, and it is better for things like Cyclone, but does that mean that Flicker can't use it too? Especially because it hits a lot. And by going champion, we get a lot of damage from Impale with Master of Steel. Things like that. Also, our defenses was another problem, because now that we're flickering uncontrollably and we're always in melee range, we can't really move out of the way. So how do we deal with defenses? Well, we get Fortify from champion, a bunch of armor from Unstoppable Hero, right? And nodes like Steadfast, so this Thread of Hope that here, that we get a bunch of little nodes. You get Steadfast, it gives you armor, increase Fortify, and increase Fortify while we're stationary. Now, if you guys don't know, when you're flickering, you're always stationary. Because it's technically, even though it's a movement skill, you're not really moving. I don't understand the logic behind that. I don't know why they put a movement tag on it if you're not really moving. But you're always stationary while teleporting. So you always have 20% increase effective Fortify on you while attacking, which is great. Right? And on top of that, we are a max block build with Glancing Blows and Surrender. Now, Surrender is, of course, an expensive item, but it's definitely worth the hassle of getting, because it gives you recovered 250 life when you block, and it doesn't fight armor if you block recently. So we have a lot of armor with Alliance Roar to be able to tank a lot of his damage, but also with Glancing Blows, we can always stand inside of a monster's, damage, like kind of the circle, the rolling little fire cyclone that Phoenix does, Minotaur slams and swings and everything, and even Shaper's little attacks. We can tank them all. The only really problem we have is damage over time, because you can't block it. So a little bit of Chaos Race helps a lot, and things like Soul of Arcali for Pantheon will do that. I'll help you out for getting less damage over time for those little nodes. And of course, elemental damage, but we do have Fortify, we have Cap Rise and everything like that, and a decent life pool at 5.4k. And the third main problem with Flicker is that you need to figure out how to get more Frenzy Charge duration during a single target boss, because while Blood Rage and Flicker Strike by itself will more than likely be enough during clear in order to sustain Frenzy Charge to hit a lot more with Flicker Strike, you need something better if you want to hit always with Flicker and be loyal to Flicker on a single target boss. And the main ways are Red Trail Boots, so you have to self-inflict bleed, and then every time you hit an enemy while you're self-inflicting bleed, or like you're bleeding yourself, you get a Frenzy Charge. But that's kind of annoying because you have to mitigate with the bleed and the damage over time. You can't really block it. And I think armor doesn't really have an effect on it. It's more of a phys mitigation. Things like Soul of Steel, if they even have it anymore, I think they removed it. No, they removed it. If you see like phys mitigation, like Basalt Flask, that affects the bleed damage taken, which will help a lot, right? So that's one source. Terminus S, but again, we don't use block and will affect our defenses. Same thing with Oral's Flicker, Oral's Sacrifice, and I believe that's it. So the last remaining option we have for us is Aspect of the Cat and Feral's Fur. If Feral's Fur gives you maximum Frenzy Charges and Power Charges when you gain Cat Stealth, because you get Cat Stealth and some other one there, I forget what it's called now. Cat Stealth and let it block real quick, and Cat's Agility on a quick, 6-second duration usually. I'll explain how I got 2 seconds right there. So basically what happens is every time that we switch from Cat Stealth to Cat's Agility and backwards, we get maximum Frenzy Charges and Power Charges, which is great for damage and it's sustain Flicker. The problem is usually, as you can see here, Cat's Agility and whatever stuff lasts 6 seconds, and that's not going to sustain your Flicker because you're more likely going to go through bursts of 5 to 6 Frenzy Charges on a single target boss, right? Faster than 6 seconds it takes to proc and redo Cat's Stealth and Cat's Agility. So how do we lower this? Well, if you get an item that has Aspect of the Cat on it, you can craft it yourself on a boots, on a gloves, and a helmet. I recommend your helmet because it's going to be the most open available slot. Or do what I do and just get a Feral's Bite for the crit chance and the blind and the damage, right? That has Aspect of the Cat on it. You put a Swift Affliction for reduced duration and less duration, right? Which is more important because it's less duration. Sorry for that. That's a freaking Power Charges. Every time they reset, it makes that stupid noise. I don't get why they make that noise. Make it more cooler. It sounds like some guy's shooting something, like an arrow or hitting a wall or whatever the fuck, right? So with that, now our Cat's Agility and Cat Stealth is only 2 seconds long. So we're guaranteed to get our Power Charges and Frenzy Charges maxed up. So the only thing you have to do at this point is get more Frenzy Charges to have a more supply. So you're less likely to run out in 2 seconds. That's all you really need to do. I found myself to be comfortable with 5, though ideally I think 6 is a bit better for 100% uptime. I'm like at 99%. I might run out, but then like in the quick half a second, it comes back and I can attack again. And it happens very rarely, right? It's like if you get super unlucky. So it's not a big deal. Things like having Flicker Strike with extra quality for an increased chance to get frenzy charges helps a lot for this type of things. So keep that in mind. And that's basically how we sustain our, frenzy charges for Flicker Strike. That's pretty much the 3 main problems, and that's how we fix it. So if you go into the tree, it's basically your generic Impale tree. You want to get as much Impale chance as possible, right? So as a champion, you get a lot of, you get Impale chance from Master of Steel with Dread Banner, and then Impale Gem, and then of course, last thing, we get Forceful Screwing. They're also Forceful Screwing. Did I read that right? Skewering. Excuse me. That sounds really bad. There's also Swift Skewering. This one works too, but we don't really need it to cap our Impale. This works fine, and it's around the same DPS for 1 point less. So I dropped that and went for that. But of course, everything else is just life, accuracy rating, right? Constitution. Come down here. Frenzy charges because you need frenzy charges. Right? Blade Dance for overwhelm. More accuracy, more crit because it's a crit build. Acuity helps a F-ton with a lot of accuracy since we don't have a lot of accuracy on gear to kind of like, withhold with all the gear that we have. Especially in Harvest, where you want to put as much damage as possible. Acuity goes a long way to cap out your accuracy, which is very important in a crit build. Right? And especially Impale builds because you want to Impale as much as possible. More frenzy charges, of course, life and things like that. On the left here, we have an amazing Chart of Hope that gives you versatility. That gives you the dex and int that you would need a lot. Trust me, without this, you're not going to cap out on int very easily. Your chance, attack speed, and accuracy rating. An amazing node for 1 point. You get Blade Master, which allows you to skip those 3 points, which are not that important. For more accuracy, keep in mind that melee strike range is nothing. For Flicker, you're always going to be the same area. Doesn't really matter. What's more important is strike amount. We'll go over that real quickly. Aggressive Bastion to get endurance charges while holding a shield, right? And we get Steadfast, like I said before. And then moving on alongside the tree on the left side, we get the more life nodes to get disemboweling for more crit, and then we move on to Glancing Blows. Now, on a quick note, Tireless, if you read it, also gives you reduced mana cost of skills. This is very important because while you're clearing, you're not going to have any mana problems, but while single targeting bosses, you're going to have some mana problems here and there. For the majority, most bosses die pretty frequently. But for whatever reason, the Cortex boss, if you guys haven't seen me kill that without a bottle fave, you can go watch my last video. Highly recommend it. You can see me do a little victory pose. And that boss, for some reason, I couldn't sustain on that boss. It was very weird. Every single boss had no problems, but that boss wasn't. I don't know if there has some sort of less mana leech recovery rate or something on the boss. But this and getting 2 gears with -9 mana cost, well, it's a little crap. It costs like 4 chaos. It's very cheap. You can go to Global 820 to buy it if you need it. Right? Well, more than enough to sustain your Flicker for everything, including single target. So I highly recommend that. And this node's great because there's a decent amount of life anyway. So, and it's right next to Glancing Blows. So it's awesome for a little node. Now for your Anointment, since we do have cap blocked at 75% chance to block, things like, well, not things, this node over here, which is super cheap. It is an orange, red, and rainbow one. It will probably cost you like 10 to 15 chaos. It's amazing because it gives you Command of Steel. It might give you the last bit of block you need, but most importantly, it gives you 1% increased damage per block chance you have. Since we have 75% chance of block capped out, this gives us 75% increased damage. It's like our highest damage node by far, and it's super cheap. However, if you do not have strike gloves like these, which are very easy to craft, I'll do a crafting guide on it, like I said before, for the build, then, right, you do need to anoint Tribal Fury, and it's a bit more expensive, well, quite a bit more expensive with basically rainbow, silver, and oil in the order that it is, that it upgrades. And that's a bit more expensive, obviously, because they're rare oils. But without that, if you don't even want to do that, then you can do Ancestral Call on your 6th link clear, but then you have to drop damage for clear, and I don't really recommend that. Because then you need 2 gem swaps for your single target. You would have to swap out Melee Splash and Ancestral Call, which is kind of annoying. So I highly recommend that you at least try to anoint it. You can go, I guess you can go path it, because I'm only level 90 in the build, if you really care about that much. But like the Melee Splash area effect is quite nice, I guess, but it's definitely not needed. And it's better to anoint it or get the gloves and get Command of Steel for more damage. So that pretty much covers the Anointment. Last thing I want to cover is we get Life Leech from Blood Rage, and then we get Mana Leech from a jewel like this, and it's recover your mana. It has to be a Viridian Jewel in order to roll physical attack damage uses mana. Because the only deal phase damage is the only source of mana you need, and you're perfectly good. Try to get some life and crit multi on it as well. Or phase damage of swords, things like that, or one-handed melee weapons. That pretty much covers the tree, just your basic life tree with crit chance, impale chance, and everything out there, right? And as a champion, the only ascendancies the order of ascendancy you want to pick up is, of course, Master Steel for the damage. Then inspirational for the reserves banner skills. I mean, your banner does not reserve any mana. Good for mana sustain, I guess. But most importantly, you get movement speed, which is great for clearing. Then you get Unstoppable Hero, and then you get Fortitude. The reason I say to get this one first, inspirational, is because you're not going to be able to fit all your auras without this one node. And if you wait too long, you might have some mana problems, right? While the Fortify honestly can wait until later. You can put a Fortify on your Leaf Slam until then. That covers the tree. Moving on to your gear. Now, like I said before, I'm making a crafting guide for all the gear because it's very easy. And as you can see, some gears are pretty much scuffed, while others are actually really good. Now, keep note, some of the items are different than what's in the POB. Like some of them are upgraded, but for a different build. Like I'm playing a Owning Tectonic Slam build coming very soon to the channel in a build guide format. And some of this gear was formatted for that. I'll explain which ones they are. It's only the belt and the boots, honestly. So when we get there, but keep in mind that in the POB, it's the actual gear that I used, and it's probably going to be worse. Keep in mind. Right? So first thing you want a sword with good amount of attack speed, 1.8 or higher, decent amount of crit, 6.5 or higher, and good PDPS, physical DPS. Don't get elemental, not going to work. Brutality does not let you do elemental damage. Right? You want at least 300 or higher. I know there's like 600 PDPS swords out there. It'd be amazing if I can get that. And I technically am on the way on that because if you look at my suffixes, they're tier 1 accuracy, tier 1 attack speed, and tier 2 crit, which is amazing. So all I really have to do is just add remove fizz on the prefixes because they're freaking atrocious until I get something decent. But I didn't really need it, so I went on with that. It's only a 300 something PDPS sword, and mostly because it's 30% quality. So you kind of want to use a perfect fossil. Another route is don't go the warlord route and just craft it yourself. Alt spamming, try to get a good or like physical craft mod from the harvest actually instead of alt spamming. That way you can use a fractured craft, because it requires you to have 3 prefixes, 3 suffixes, or 5 total affixes on the item. So you don't really want to alt spam it because you have to regal it and do a bunch of bullshit. Just try to reroll. If you get like tier 1 fizz, try to fracture it, and if you have a good fracture, then you can start working that as a base because now you have permanent tier 1 physical damage percentage, which is great. If you warlord it, you can't fracture it because it keeps like this synthesized little icon. You can't have both. But I went with the warlord route and I got something pretty decent. And I used to reroll fizz and I got this. So if not, just use some little unique like Scavas or some other unique you can use out there. Don't use On's Might because that reduces your frenzy charges. But here I do have linked Blood Rage for attack speed and Leech, Leap Slam, and faster attacks for super fast Leap Slam. Keep in mind that what do we call it? You don't need Fortify because you have Fortify from Champion, so don't put that there. And then that covers your sword. For your shield, again, you want Surrender for the chance to block, the recovery, and armor. It's amazing. It might be expensive, but it's worth it. You want to put castle damage taken in Mortal Call, since you do have Enduring Cry for endurance charges. And this little note here for endurance charges and Mortal Call is amazing for the build. You put Enduring Cry here. That way, it's on our walk. So every time we walk, right, we're going to cast Enduring Cry automatically. You want to link it to your, the other button that you use. So I basically have attack on this button, my right button, and my left button for walking, and I click both when attacking so that Enduring Cry, when it's up, it's automatically going to proc while I'm attacking, which is really good for bossing. And the only reason that works is because we have Path, Call to Arms, which makes the war cries instant, so you don't have to do the little animation of me shouting, right? That way you don't get stun locked or whatever the hell. Actually, we're immune to stuns, be at the point. So it covers the shield. For your chance piece, like I explained earlier, you want a Pharaoh's Fur. It has Aspect of the Cat, reserves no mana, which allows you to put these little 2 supports on the Aspect of the Cat so it does not affect your mana problems. It's absolutely free. It's amazing. You can link as much as you want to it. But obviously, we only need 2 gems, these 2 that I explained earlier. So it gives you that life, and it gives you that insane frenzy charge and power charges. So we basically have all 3 charges. We have frenzy, power, and endurance charges, which is great. Here, we basically want Awaken Melee Splash. It's super cheap. Highly recommend it. Since we don't have Explode Chest, Awaken Melee Splash is way more. It's more AoE for the Melee Splash than the normal Melee Splash. And once you put them Awakened in, dude, you're just on 1 slap a pack and it just instantly dies. It looks like you have an Explode mod without the flashy explosion, but it's more than satisfying enough, and I highly recommend it. Right, so you want that for clear. Flicker Strike with equality on it, ideally. Impale, Brutality, Close Combat, and then Multi-Strike. As you can see, a lot of my things don't have quality on it because I never bothered with it. I didn't care. Now, for a single target, you want to Awaken Slash, move it, and get Melee Fizz on a weapon, on a gem swap, and put that for clear for your single target. Now, another thing that I don't have is Intimidate. Intimidate would be great in the build, but you can either get it from a Timeless Jew. I tried and it was too expensive and I never got it. Or just get an Awakened Melee Fizz, and if you quality it, you get a chance to get Intimidate, which is great. So that works too. For your helmet, It can be either a helm with aspect of the cat crafted on it, or if you want like res and life, or you can get a frails bat like I did. It's a lot cheaper. It gives you crit, gives you chance to blind and the damage, which is great. And here you want to link your Swift Affliction and Less Duration, non-linked to anything else by itself like I have here. And then I put Herald of Purity and Wouldn't Dread banner for the auras, right? For your gloves. Now your gloves, you don't have to buy spike gloves. You can just buy normal gloves. Again, crafting guide coming soon. I'll explain everything there. If you want to make your high-end gear, you can just buy normal gloves that are eye level 80 or higher. Just go to POEDB and make sure that you look at the eye level required for strike gloves. I believe it's level 80 because these are only level 82, right? I actually bought these for an Exalt and then finished crafting it myself, adding the attack speed, the fizz, and the little aura of the res on it. I think I added the lightning res. I didn't really need more than that, so it's perfectly fine. Left it at that, right? But basically, you want to alt spam until you get strike skills and then life, and then you can go on from there using harvest crafting, adding things like res, physical damage. As you can see, the only fizz damage I have is physical damage to attack, so you can just do add remove fizz as much as you want until you get that fizz mod. Very easy. I'll explain it later in another video, but that's what you want. Spike gloves are an expensive base, so you can just downgrade from there, right? But just try to look for the strike gloves, alt spam it if you care. Or it is a, what is it? Is an attack mod. So you can do, if you want, reroll attack modifiers that are more common with harvest and see if you get lucky. That's another route you can take too. Here we do have our totem, our brutality, impale, melee fizz, and of course the wall and says retrieve totem because it's OP as hell. For your belts, now ignore the elemental damage. I'm crafting for another belt. It used to be mana and I moved it to elemental damage. But an elder belt is a great way to get a lot of damage. But again, you can just get life res and then craft damage with the belt from your thing here, your belt craft, and just craft 16% damage. 16 compared to 26 from Global Fizz, not that big of a deal. But if you do invest into an elder base, which are pretty cheap, this is end of the league, right? Roll with more common life modifiers, right? And then if you aug Fizz, you're almost guaranteed to get Global Fizz. I think it's another thing that kind of blocks. I forgot what the mod was. I explained in the crafting guide. And you can get that. And then if you have no open if your prefixes are locked and you have open suffixes, and if you craft attack, you're basically guaranteed melee damage, or I think attack speed during flask effect, which is great. I got melee damage perfectly fine. There's another one there. I forgot what it was. I think I wanted it more, but this is good enough anyway. So an elder belt is a great investment, especially if you try to get another life mod, the increased maximum life, if you can deal with the less res. So, and they're not that very expensive. I think I paid like 100 chaos for this belt. The base, I level 86 elder. So highly recommend it. Otherwise, just using a belt. You want a St. Vise, so you want an Abyss Jewel with flat fizz. Ideally, you want a Murderous Eye Jewel for the sword flat fizz, but this one works too, as long as it's flat fizz, 2 attacks, life, and then either blind. I went with more blind because this is only during cat stealth, and cat stealth only lasts like 2 fucking seconds. So it's highly unreliable, so I went with more generic blind. But you can do attack speed during, if you did a critical strike recently, things like that, or critical multi, things like that. Now, belt on my boots. Yes, they look expensive. No, I did not have Tailwind when I made this build. I knew I could have crafted it, but I didn't want to spend a Hunter's Exalted Orb on it. Before I had Strength on it, I don't need the Strength, so I did a lot of little, very quickly trick, and I actually removed the Strength and crafted Tailwind when I slammed it with a Hunter's Exalted Orb. But you don't need that. The boots that I have are just basically 80 life, 30% movement speed, and res. That's all you really need. If you get Tailwind, though, it's a lot of damage, so I highly recommend if you can do it, because all it really is you aug crit on a Hunter boot, and you're guaranteed to get Tailwind. So if you can, go for it. Don't bother with Elusive, because you're going to be leap slamming everywhere. You don't need the movement speed, unless you want to be big baller. But yeah, I actually Ascendancy on 1 Essence. I got super lucky. Of course, in the league where everybody has one, because Harvest exists. Ironic as hell. But yeah, here you have your auras enlightened, pride, maim, and flesh and stone. Link maim with flesh and stone. That way the maim increased physical damage taken is higher. These are your highest costing auras. You only need level 3. Don't bother. You can do level 4 if you want, for more mana. For your ring, you want a Circle of Guilt with buff effect, reduce mana reservation. They're very cheap. Look for some pretty good implicits. For your ring, you basically use 1 life. Flat fizz, you don't really need the melee damage. Int, because you're going to need int. And then if you have no open prefixes and you craft fizz as a suffix, the only thing you can really get is Curse on Hit Vulnerability on a Warlord ring. With, I think it has to be eye level 80 or higher. So it's very easy to craft, guys. Don't overpay for vulnerability rings, right? Just re-roll it with life modifiers. And actually, no, you want to re-roll it with int. Try to craft some int or buy on the market with int, right? And like a Warlord ring by itself, that's a level 80 with intelligence and life, and then you slam fizz on it and you have your vulnerability. It's super easy, right? You can also use essences of int. I forget what they're called, but the in one if you want to do that. Now the amulet. Your amulet is probably your biggest source of damage and probably the easiest one to craft, in my opinion, to make it absolutely broken. Mine is literally has the potential to be one of the best amulets in the league if I finish it, but I got super unlucky, as you guys can see. I need to do add remove fizz, and I'm guaranteed to remove the fizz of damage to attacks and get something better. Add remove life, because I have less than crafted life. My res is good, and then my crit chance, I ogged crit and add remove crit, and never got crit multi, I got crit chance, so it's basically fucking useless. The only thing you're looking for is Pride has reduced mana reservation. You need an amulet that's that's a warlord amulet, ideally at level 84, because you want higher resistance possible. You want to get that tier 1. It's at level 84 or higher. I believe you only need at level 80, right? And you basically just want to alt spam or use, since Pride is in mana and aura modifier, you can't harvest craft it, but you can do Lucent or Bound fossils, because they're aura and mana fossils. Ideally, that's what their tag is, and they have a higher chance of rolling this modifier. However, Warlord can roll like 5 of these of different elements. Like there is the fire one, I think it's anger, there's a wrath one, and there's a pride one. You're looking for the pride one. It's not that rare, guys, especially if you put life and mana catalyst on it to increase the chance of it coming out. So I all spammed it and got it a few times, and I just continue on from there and just ogged fizz, ogged life, ogged a res, and ogged crit, and you're guaranteed to get something like this. Very easy. Mine's pure garbage, but if you can go all out, you can definitely make some crazy shit, right? And that's where you want. I already said the anointment is Command of Steel, which is the shield node up here, right? And that pretty much covers your gear in terms of that. For your flask, you want a life flask and bleeding removal, a silver flask for onslaught and curse removal. A bottle faith is your highest DPS source. You can kill Cortex with this build without a bottle faith. Just use your sulfur flask, because it does increase the crit chance. Use that. Watch my last video. I did a victory pulse on it. It's definitely possible. Absolutely destroyed it without dying on the second try, because the first try I learned that I needed the minus mana cost. Kind of annoying. A diamond flash for the crit, and then Lion's Roar for the more melee fizz damage. And it pretty much covers the gist of the build. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, guys, if you like Flicker, and it can tank almost everything in the game. Absolute brother. I tried. I really tried. Watch the last video if you want to see me get tortured. I'm going to keep saying it. Do it. Right. Leave a like. But I'll move into the outro, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. Had you guys there. Well, guys, that wraps up everything for the build. For the Flicker, is probably one of the most well-balanced Flicker builds out there that lets you tank all the bosses in the game, and of course, except Uber Alder, because Flicker itself is kind of flawed, and then you can't choose which boss to hit in the ideal moment that you want to hit the correct one. Go watch my last video if you want to laugh your ass off. Even that, though, leave a like if you guys enjoy the content. It'd be helpful for the YouTube algorithm to, recommend the video out more. Subscribe for more. I'm very close to 1,000 subs, so about to get monetized. Thank you very much, guys, for your support. And, of course, catch me on Twitch if you guys want. And with that, guys, I am out. On to the next build guide. Here's a little sneak peek of what I'm working on next. And I'll catch you guys later. Kitty go boom boom.
Kitty missile turrets, boy!